The cops were really freaking horrible, and I have hated cops ever since that day. Thank you for coming. What the hi. Thank you for coming to my YouTube Beautiful channel, where I believe that if you have a beautiful mind, you too will have a beautiful life. Because if there's something wrong in here, there's something wrong out here. Welcome back. If you are back, you are amazing. If you are clicking on my channel for the first time, thank you for giving me a chance. Fair shot. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and comment down below. Whatever it is, I am here for you, okay? Today is gonna be part 2, where I'm going to talk about the definitions of birth, mother, blood, sister, umbilical cord, and severing the umbilical cord. If you have not yet watched the first part and you want to know what my dream was, so we could analyze it together, then I suggest you go watching my video up here. And if you're looking for these specific definitions, then you can keep on watching, but you might be a little bit confused because I am applying these definitions to my own dream so that you, the viewer, can see how it is applied and customize each definition to your own dream. Because like I said in the previous video, to keep it short, what certain symbols mean to me may represent something different to you, even though it may be in the same realm of emotions. At the end of the day, nobody could tell you, hey, yeah, that meant that. Because what if that doesn't resonate? If that doesn't resonate, then it's either part of your shadow and you can't recognize it, or you just need to do more research and figure out what that means for you. But I'm gonna switch outfits for a second. Birth. This is rebirth. So if you see birth in your dreams, it means transitioning, going through the underworld, going through the dark night of the soul. Your subconscious is trying to inform you that you are currently going through rebirth. Rebirth represents out with the old and in with the new, baby, in with the new. Psychologically speaking, it can also mean that you're coming to terms with your existence, which makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna continue a little bit more before I explain really what this specific birth and my dream meant specifically for me and my situation. My mother represents a feminine energy, and I have always had a really bad relationship with my mom in terms that nobody can ever really understand, because I think if you see us talking to each other, you would never think that we have the deep issues that we have, because it doesn't look like it from the outside. But I have always had a really hard time connecting to my mom, and she knows this, so I'm comfortable saying it because she's very well aware of this. I've told her before. I just have a really hard time connecting with her, and I've always had a hard time connecting with her. So I have been working on connecting with my mom because it's important to me, because I am very well aware that the mother is the first example of what it is to be a feminine. She's the only example that you have of a feminine archetype, and your dad is the only example that you have of a male archetype. So if you don't properly learn how to balance the woman archetype within yourself, then that's going to be off balance and it's going to have symptoms in your life. So me being aware of that, I had to go within completely and even figure out how it is that I can live with myself within the relationship between me and my mother. For a long time, I didn't talk to her. I wrote her letters on letters on letters, and I never sent them because I didn't know what Linda wanted. I didn't know what I wanted from our relationship, but I knew that I needed to heal that wound in order to have abundance in my life and in order to reach the next levels that I know my soul can reach. I had a defect there because of the relationship that I had with my mother. It reflects on the romantic relationships that I have in my present, and if I don't address those issues, those wounds, then I'm going to be reliving the same cycle. Essentially, I'm going to be dating the same person in a different package and also be giving too much of myself to that person because I have lack of boundaries because of just issues. So that dream represents finally being able to come into my power and realize that I had to step in for myself myself and reteach myself what it is to be a woman and what a woman means to me, because I have been in my male energy since I was in elementary. I would dress masculine. I considered myself a tomboy. I was in denial about being bisexual completely. I didn't love myself. I think I love myself now. I think I love myself. I'm not really sure if I'm completely there yet, and I think I would be completely sure if I was, but I can't think of any instances of me bashing myself so harshly that I can't get out of bed anymore like I used to. So there's definitely been a lot of improvement in that area, and the birth just reassembled this new energy that I have with my mother, with myself, with life, and with everything that surrounds me. That is what that birth in that dream meant to me. To continue, the baby, my baby sister, that can signify that I am wanting to be spiritually pure, which I most definitely can relate to. There's a reason that I read scripture. There's a reason that I meditate daily. There's a reason that I do yoga. There's a reason that I want to be a vessel in which the universe can speak and send messages out through. The only way to do that is to be spiritually pure and to live as close to my higher self as I possibly can. I think that's the best way that I can describe it. Well, yeah, I can relate to that definition. So babies mean you want to be spiritually pure. The blood, it defines life. So blood usually means life. It carries life. Your blood stops pumping, baby, you ain't here anymore. In my perspective and my experience, I get queasy around blood. I almost fainted watching a movie when I was in middle school. I like scary movies. I still like it, and I will force myself to watch a scene with a lot of blood because I want to get over it. But I almost fainted. Then I did faint another time that my friend busted his face open. I fainted. I hit my face against the hotel door, and then I started seizing, and then I got up and I was like, yeah, this is fine, I'm fine, don't worry about it. So that happened, and yeah, my relationship with blood is that I don't do blood. I don't do it. I do it. I cut the tip of my thumb off, and my reaction to it wasn't as bad as it was great. My reaction to it was great. I handled it like a champ. But there was a guy on my job that apparently oh my God, I want to cry just thinking about it. Trigger warning. See, this is how I get around blood. There was a guy, he had like my leg, and imagine one of those veins that pop out, like, you know what I'm talking about, those like veins that just pop out, that just like, they're just like there. It popped, and he didn't notice, and he was bleeding out. Thank God I wasn't there yet. And people said that you could smell the iron, and everybody was just like in a pool of his blood because he didn't notice, and it was like everybody was busy, and he almost died. Oh my God. That is the reaction that blood gives me. It just like, the fact that I was able to handle this whole dream like a champ, I am overcoming obstacles in my life. Yeah. Sister can represent a rivalry. Now, when I first was doing this script, I failed to see part of my shadow because I'm like, why would I ever be jealous of my sister that's literally 4 months old now? So I'm like, I don't think that meaning is for me, because no, I love her. She's so cute. She's adorable. She's a baby. She's just a baby. She's just a baby. I'm just a baby. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, damn, this is my internal sisterhood wound. Let's talk about this. This is a big one. I grew up in a competitive hobby. It was a hobby, I guess you could say that now, but at the time I was gonna do it professionally. Like, I wanted to be a dancer for all my life. I wanted to grow up and I wanted to be a backup dancer just like my teachers. Like, that is what I wanted to do. I wanted wanted to dance. Obviously, I didn't realize how toxic the dance world was, and I grew up in a competitive place where it was normal to compete, and I would get jealous. And I think that I still have that within me to envy. It's a light envy because I'm obviously trying to live a pure life and trying to do the best that I can, but sometimes like you can't avoid what you feel. I grew up in a very competitive field when I was growing up. Life is like a triangle, you know, and if this is what you learned when you were growing up from the ages to like 18, you're still learning obviously because the triangle goes up and it builds upon this. But unfortunately, nowadays, we have to, well, I had to, I don't know about you. If you're here, I'm guessing you too, but we have to totally destroy our base and build it up again and build our new life on top of that. One of the things that are in my base is my rivalry towards things that I perceive that are better than me. I feel like that's a very simple way to put it. The reason that I feel jealous towards prettier people or successful people, it's not something that like I lose sleep over. It's like, you know, those intruding thoughts that they just pop out in your head, and I always correct myself. I'm like, yo, can you like not? I'm like my mom to myself. I'm like, can you not? I make sure to compliment them in my head and work on that constantly, but it's still an innate feeling that I have within me that I have not been able to quite shift quite yet, because it comes with practice. Rome was not built in a day. Like I said, I have to completely destroy the base that I grew up on of comparing myself constantly to other people in dance class. And I constantly, after class, would ask my mom for validation. I'd be like, oh, am I better than so-and-so? Oh, am I better than this? And she would tell me honestly, you know, like not really thinking about the fact that that doesn't matter. She never was able to tell me, hey, it doesn't matter, because as long as you're doing the best that you can, then it doesn't matter if so-and-so is great. Let them be great. You know, just because somebody is great doesn't mean that I can't be great too. So I spent my entire childhood every day after class talking to my mom, seeking validation from teachers. Like if I wasn't put in the front, I would feel some type of way. I wanted to be in the first row. I wanted to be in the middle of the dance. I wanted to have my solo in the group dance. I wanted to stand out because to me that meant I'm valid or I'm good enough. And that made me seek external validation as I grew up, and I didn't notice until I started working on myself and doing shadow work and interpreting my dreams. It's funny because this is also connected to my mom, and I talked about how my relationship with my mom is being rebuilt. So in the same breath, you can also say that the rebirth means that I am choosing to make different changes in my life, and rivalry, and that is one of them that I'm actively working on every single day. When it does show up in my life, I make sure to acknowledge it, hear my voice inside my head, remind myself that just because somebody is abundant doesn't mean that I can't be abundant too. That lack of mentality is just not serving me. If you dream of your sister in your dream, it represents your sense of rivalry and jealousy. So to continue, we're gonna talk about the umbilical cord. So the umbilical cord resembles a life force and a connection between mother and child. This to me also then represents the connection between me and my mom. And since it's like birth, then I'm having a rebirth with a connection with me and my mom. Usually dreams, when they give you symbols, everything correlates with one another. It's not like a standalone thing. You kind of just have to really put the whole thing into perspective and connect the dots and connect the similarities between the symbolism. And then severing a umbilical cord is defined as the transition from adolescence to teenager. And for me, my teenage years with my mom and my dad towards the end, because I was like doing not hardcore drugs, but to me they weren't hardcore drugs. Maybe to some people what I've done is what I've done is like crazy, you know, but to me it's normal because that was my teenage years, and I would not have had it any other way because I am the person I am today because of the experiences that I went through. And I don't know who I would have been if I had not gone through that. Maybe perhaps I would have ended up in the same mindset, but I think it would have taken me a little longer. My choice of drug abuse was it was LSD, but like I'd be lying if I told you I didn't do any pills. I never touched any prescription pills or snowflakes because I was really scared to get hooked on it forever. Like I would think about that. I'm like, you know what? No, maybe that's not for me because I don't want to be like, it wasn't something that I couldn't live without, you know, what I was doing. Anyways, so my teenage years, as you can see by like the little bit that I just told you, were really insane. I had terrible issues with my mom. We had a fight my freshman year. I was still sober at this point. I didn't start doing drugs until junior year. I don't even think I touched Mary at this point, THC. I told myself that I was never going to touch any of that. People who did Mary were not for me, you know? Oh baby, the tables turned. But I think that a big catalyst to that is because I was trying to numb myself from the pain. And yeah, I got in a huge fight with my mom in freshman year. I tried to get out of the car because we were arguing and she told me some stuff that I wasn't very happy about. I had come from dance class. I was wearing my sports bra, booty shorts, like booty shorts. Like you could probably see the tip of my ass type. And barefoot, because you don't use shoes or anything when you dance. My favorite type of dance at that time was contemporary, and that's what I was doing. And I got out of the car pretty much. I was gonna walk home. And my mom, the cops, there was like 4 cop cars. They asked me for my password. They asked me for my iPod password. You know, like when iPhones first came out with the iPods, the iPod password. I had a BlackBerry at the time. They asked me for my BlackBerry password. They went through all my phone. They went through, like, I did nothing. They called me slut. They called me whore. They degraded me. The cops were really freaking horrible, and I have hated cops ever since that day, because how are you gonna tell a 14-year-old child that she's a slut? When I'm a child, you should be questioning my mom. What the hell do I have to do? I'm 14 years old. Like, why are you calling a 14-year-old a slut? What's wrong with you? And yeah, ever since that day, and they handcuffed me and they put me in the back of a cop car at 14 years old. And that day was the last time I talked to my mom for an entire year. And then I started doing drugs. This dream to me resembles a rebirth of fixing that relationship with my mom in my teenage years, because we were never really able to talk about what had happened, because I had a blocked throat chakra, because as a family, because I could say from both sides of the party, they don't know how to talk about emotions because they were never given the tools to. That being said, I don't blame my parents for any of I might have blamed my parents back then, but I've done enough work to know that blaming them is not gonna do anything. And it's just my job now to move on with my life and let go of the past and be able to talk to them about what happened. Specifically my mom, because I talked to my dad a lot, and that's my homie. I love my dad forever and always. But me and my mom have a really rocky relationship. We never spoke about that day. We never talked about it because she never wanted to talk about it, because she views it as like me judging and, you know, like the assumption that like, oh, you're not a good mom. It's not that. It's like we need to talk about it. So we've talked about a lot about what had happened and a lot about all my emotions. She told me all her emotions, and we're just rebuilding our relationship from scratch, because I have to rebuild the relationship from scratch, because if not, we're not gonna have a relationship. Because if our relationship is based off of that memory, I don't like you. You know what I mean? And that action does not resemble her as a person. People make mistakes. It's been years. I'm 27 years old now. I was 14 years old at the time. I think it's time to let it go, right? The severing of the umbilical cord is me having the rebirth of my teenage years and reestablishing that connection with my mother. And that's what that means to me. For you, it can mean something different because you don't have the same life that I have, you don't have the same circumstances that I have, and you haven't had the same past and experience that I have. I don't have the same parents that you have, etc., etc., etc. That is my video today. I hope that you were able to grasp how to do this for your own life. If there was anything that was confusing for you, or that I didn't explain quite right, or that just any questions that you have, please ask down below. I will answer. And if I can't give you a precise answer, I will look it up and I'll point you in the right direction. But I've been deciphering my dreams for 4 years now. They've helped me out immensely. Please communicate with me, please. So those were your definitions for birth, mother, blood, sister, umbilical cord, and severing the umbilical cord. Take only what you need, never more, never less. Don't be greedy, bitch. Bye.